First down and 10 for the 13. Back to Daniel Jackson at quarterback. Low snap, rolls to the right side, throws up the back leg, and it's picked off again. It's Nolan Ewing who trots down the far sideline, dives to the end zone. It's a touchdown. Nolan Ewing, his third pick of the day, goes for 6 points. Jack Mullen under center in flex zone. Has the snap, 3-step drop, lobs it up, left side, Kevin Green, back in the end zone. He has it! Touchdown, Falcons! Arnold under center out of the flex zone. Gives out the Zach Dressler is here on the near side to the 30. Makes a cut in the middle to the 15, to the 10. Stumbling inside the 5, and he's hit it to the end zone for a Falcon touchdown. What's going on, everyone? Voice of the Friends Falcons, Pat Strathman, with another edition of the Friends Football Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM. We are broadcasting from Walk-On Sports Bistreaux in Wichita, out on Maze Road. Come on out and see us every Monday at 5 o'clock. That's when we record these things. But you should come out here anyways just to catch all the wonderful sporting events on the crazy amount of TVs that they have in this place. And the best part is their food. I mean, let's be real. You come here for TVs, that's great and all, but you got to have good food to go with it. And that's exactly what you get out at Walk-On Sports Bistreaux. It's game day food with that southern twist. A fantastic spot to go to if you're trying to catch a sporting event or celebrate some wins as well. Head football coach at Friends University, Terry Harrison, alongside me. And Friends coming off a loss to Evangel 20-11 over in Springfield. Evangel number 13 in the country. Friends number 25 in the nation. Evangel pretty good defensively. I think we all knew that as the KCAC newcomers. Here comes Friends, a long road trip over to Missouri, coming off that win over then-ranked number 6 Southwestern. Well, long road trip maybe explains maybe a little bit of a slow start, or it could be the fact that it's Evangel being really good defensively too. Evangel gets the win 20-11. Just the second loss this year for Friends University. Coach, we talked about the challenges of facing a new team in the conference like the Evangel Valor, but then you throw in the long road trek. You guys are leaving pretty early, and you have to stay overnight, and then you got a kickoff time at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but still you got to wait a little bit in the morning, and you got to get your routine in. There's so many different factors that can be thrown into this equation. Let's just get your overall thoughts on the loss to Evangel this past weekend.
Yeah, Joe, just initially, man, just hurt a lot, man. It was a tough loss, and it was, our families traveled really well. So it was fun to see that, and all the support we have for our program. And so, man, it certainly hurt a lot, and that's okay. And we talked a little bit about that. When you care more than other programs, the losses hurt a lot more, especially significant loss like that against a ranked opponent. Has so much momentum to come up short. Definitely hurts, and it's all those things, and you can kind of feel that after the game, just the collective hurt for our players, because it, while certainly we'll go through the game, but we just didn't give it our best shot, and so there's probably a lot of different reasons for that, and I think some of that is maturing as a program and kind of how far we've come in such a short time. We talked to the players on yesterday, and we kind of mentioned this is kind of where we're at, and so. Last season, we had some really tough competitive losses against good teams, and it felt like a win. And now we're at a spot as a program where when these are the games we want. We want to be in tough competitive games, ranked opponents. This is what it's going to feel like, and this is the type of feel of the competitive football we've got to get ready for, and really push ourselves to be ready for that game. And we weren't there yet on Saturday. And so it's as I think every emotion, everyone there had every emotion possible, like frustration, embarrassment, anger. joy, like we're gonna here we go. Felt like almost a couple plays happened where the tide turned and we just couldn't get it done. And so, one of those deals like when we it was a long trip home. I'll tell you that on that late night bus ride, and I think everybody, coaches and kids all alike, probably go through every type of all those emotions. But I leave encouraged, like we are headed in the right direction. We're at a great spot as a program, even though that certainly was disappointing on Saturday.
Yeah. Well, on the long trip back, you get a chance to think about all sorts of things, and next thing you know, you go, well, we got to get better. Let's get to practice. Let's get to the weight room. Let's push a little harder. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. Nothing motivates most people than losses. It's usually the case. Like, wins are great and all, but like you get like, oh, okay, we got to win, great, but it's always the losses that seem to kind of motivate and stoke the fire a little bit.
Yeah, well, and hopefully I will tell you this, programs I've been a part of as a coach, we've never gotten worse after a loss. We've only gotten better, and so certainly we want to win, and we practice really hard, and our families and players invest so much into our program. We don't want to, we want to win. That's why we practice all the time. But we have only gotten better from losses over time. And so with that, no different. We learned some really, really hard lessons on Saturday, and some things are best learned the hard way. And so we certainly had that. We have that opportunity ahead of us to learn from these hard things.
Well, in this game against Evangel, you guys are down 10-0. You guys get a field goal from Cole Thompson, a 43-yarder to make it a 10-3 ball game. It's good to always send your kicker back out there, right? Because after missing a field goal, you kind of want to get them back out there, see what's going on. And Cole was able to go out there and nailed that 43-yarder, which was big because you're down by a touchdown at the half compared to being down 10-0. I know it's so silly to say that something as different as a 10-0 ball game or a 10-3 ball game, but it's true. You get a little bit of something going into the locker room, and now you feel like you got something going. So Cole Thompson nailing a 43-yard field goal came at a pretty good time for your bunch.
Yeah, did a great job. And our first field goal opportunity, it might have been the first possession. I can't remember, but we had it was an operation issue, and that's part of the game. We told our guys after the games, that's no different. Let's say you're a player that fumbled or a missed tackle on defense. Sometimes it's harder to point at those things. Maybe a missed block of an offensive lineman. You don't necessarily see those or hear or see. That doesn't stand out as much as when you have a messed up operation on field goals. It's pretty dramatic seeming, and so those guys had that. They came off and then fixed it and nailed that 43-yarder. But like you mentioned, to be in a one-possession game at halftime when our defense had played so well, we knew we were going to have opportunities to win. And we felt like we had some really good things on offense. We just couldn't get it going, even though we felt like we had good stuff. It just little things were stopping us from scoring and converting for points. And so it was awesome to get that field goal to go into half, to be like, okay, guys, here we go. And as a coach, it's like, hey, that half really sucked. It was as bad of a half as we have played this year, and it's one possession game. And you hope maybe you could bounce back from half. And, we certainly wish we would have been able to do that. But it was, that man, he just smoked that thing. It was awesome. And gave us a little bit of a, like you could feel like a lift, as far as emotion and a little bit of momentum swinging our way when he made that.
Friends football coach Terry Harrison here on the Friends Football Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM. Friends with that loss to Evangel this past weekend, 20-11. Up next, Bethel in North Newton. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. Coach, I don't know too many teams that will find a way to overcome a 5-0 turnover margin deficit. But yet you guys are right there. You guys are down 20-3. You get a touchdown late with Cavante Baker, and then Caden Lee rushes it in to make it a 20-11 ball game, but 3:27 to go. So you're right there. You have a chance. But let's just call it how it is. When you turn the ball over 5 times and the other team doesn't, your chances of winning are very, very slim. I know Cheney pulled that off against Andel not too long ago, giving the ball up 4 different times, losing the battle 4-0, and in the second half had some weird stuff happen, yet they still found a way to overcome and take down Andel 36-30 in overtime. That's a rarity. You do not see that in the game of football. If you're down 3-0, odds are you're not going to win. But nonetheless, 5 fumbles and to no turnovers for Evangel. That's the type of stuff that I know keeps coaches up at night. And I always wonder, like, how do you address fumbles? I think there's some people that assume that they're coming a lot on pitches and whatnot, but it's just such a unique thing when you go back and watch the film. It's like, well, how do you How do you clean up fumbles? How do you change all of that? Yes, hold the ball tighter. I mean, yeah, you can say that, but I always find it interesting how coaches go about talking about fumbles. So when you look at a turnover margin that's 5-0 against you, pretty hard to overcome.
Yeah, well, a couple things. Number one, all those big fancy buildings in Vegas are built on all this gambling money, and I will tell you, the odds of winning when you lose the turnover battle by one it's hard. It's hard to win when you're down one, and virtually impossible when you're down 5. And really, you could argue 7 with the punt we hit and they got it. So, we just didn't give ourselves a chance to win in that element. And it's just hard, and not to count the momentum and all the things you feel. And man, like, with that second half we got going down there, and if we put that drive together, we're going into score, and it just always like you definitely felt the air kind of come out of the sails, so to speak. And so it is hard to address. And so we talked to the team on Sunday, and here's the deal. What the natural reaction is to overreact. I'm a human being, and all coaches and parents and the kids themselves, by the way, if you happen to be a person who fumbles or you happen to be a person who misses a tackle or drop an interception, human nature is to overreact. Yell, scream, point, blame, go down to the dumps. That's human nature. And we told the team we are not going to be a program that overreacts. As far as our kids care deeply. No one wants to fumble. No one wants to miss a field goal. No one wants to miss a tackle. All those things we talked about, right? Everybody wants the best for our kids. You can feel that from our parents. That element of not giving our best shot and turnovers like that, you could feel it. It was hard, which is good because we all care a lot. But also it was hard after the game. But we don't want to overreact. Having said that, you do have to react. And so we told our kids, some level, individually, collectively, we do have to react. And so when you look at it, there were some definitely freak things and some weird angles that contributed to that. But we have to embrace the fact that we're one of the top offenses in the country in scoring and in turnovers. And that's just not the championship football teams do not do that. And we told our kids, so we have to set ourselves at practice, individually, accountability, all these things up for that game when we're playing a ranked opponent, because it feels good to win 50-0, and some of the scores we've had are very fun, and it's entertaining, and you see these big, crazy plays, and that is very fun, and we're going to do that. Those games are going to happen at Friends as long as we're around. But what we've got to do is maybe ingrain some habits at practice and individually that set ourselves up for success in that game where we don't have those turnovers. And so turnovers are a part of football. Every team in America has at least one turnover. There's no one that doesn't have a turnover. So it's also the overreaction would be like, never turn the ball over. Well, that's not going to happen either. And so it's a hard line to walk, I'll tell you that. But we do want to react. And as a coaching staff, we told our kids this, we have to practice something. Even if they're fluke. Let's say that was a fluke turnovers, all 5 of them. There are just, hey, bad day, bad luck, and just the sun wasn't shining on the Falcons on Saturday. Still, we certainly will have to correct that because we all care so deeply about this. I mean, I will tell you, the guys that did, no one feels worse than that guy. It's a lot like, I always use kicking as an example because if you miss a field goal, kickers wear it, and you can tell. But, it's no different than a missed block, missed tackle. And our kids, I will tell you, they did an awesome job. You could feel collectively they rallied together. Our kids care deeply about each other, and we're gonna put together a better brand of football moving forward for sure.
Well, you guys turned the ball over. They're in the third quarter and bleeding into the fourth quarter. You guys are so used to having long drives that can eat up clock. Evangel had a 15-play, 85-yard drive that wasted 10 minutes of clock, which your defense did so well. Just even being the hunt, being able to be out there for 15 plays, I'm tired just thinking of it. I'm sure the defense is probably thinking the same thing. But sometimes too, you just got to tip the cap and go, hey, that was just a good drive by Evangel. I mean, that's one of the best drives you're probably going to see in the conference this year. 10 minutes, 15 plays, you're driving 85 yards. Yeah. I mean, that's just your defense did all that it could, but sometimes even your best sometimes is just trumped a little bit, and at that point it was. Yeah,
they did. They did a fantastic job. That coach been there a long time, coached a ton of football, and they did. They limited our possessions the second half, and when we do turn it over a couple times, we did not have the ball to go score. And I thought our defense did play awesome. I mean, they were in there just so many opportunities, and we just came up a little short, and there, some of the hidden yards in there, plus, maybe one or less yards, maybe they have to punt it, but they just marched it down the field, and our defense played awesome. It's just, man, that clock just melted away, and it got hard because we have to. You have to choose at some point. I think the data says anytime a team's running the ball out, when you're down 2 scores, anytime over 5 minutes and there's a run play, you got to stop the clock then. Because if you have all your timeouts and you're down 2 scores or 3 possessions and you have all your timeouts with 30 seconds left, well, they didn't help you. And so we got in those scenarios and we had to use those timeouts. Then and they were able to run the clock, and we were able to get off the field. And so very proud of our defense. I think they played awesome. We just, not bad. I think we talked about in the past, complimentary football just was not there in that second half. And you got to tip your hat to them. They did a really good job of managing the clock and shortening that game down the second half. And so it was, you could just feel it. It was so you could just feel the air out of the stadium. That's normally what we do. So just keep that in mind. We normally do that to people, and that's what it feels like to be on the other side of it. So, so very humbling when you're not on the right side of it, for sure.
Friends football coach Terry Harrison here on the Friends Football Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM. Coach, I want to ask about Cooper Skrobecki, the freshman from Waverly, 12 tackles. I know there with that linebacking group, and just defensively as a whole, you guys like to sub in, sub out quite a bit, but how about this freshman? 12 tackles in the game against Evangel. I know against Southwestern, you guys threw him out there, say, hey, all right, Frosh, here's the number 6 team in the country. We're going to have you go out there and do this and split some time. But I tell you, Cooper has been fun to watch as just a freshman this year.
Yeah, he's done a fantastic job and done it the right way, earned his way up. Stood out in JV football, stood out at practice. And then as time came where he got an opportunity, and we felt like maybe we needed needed a change of pace on defense a little bit. So he just basically got added into some packages that he wasn't in previously. So we just adjusted those. But he has certainly stood out. He's been around the football nonstop. Long kid, athletic, who's had a very successful high school career. He's a Nebraska Shrine Bowler for people from Kansas, so they have a Shrine Bowl too, and he was a Shrine Bowler there. And he is. Just done an awesome job, soaked it up, very humble, great family, has had multiple college football players in his family, so just, loves football and tough guy. And so it's been fun to watch him play, and he really, he's just been around the ball. And we tell kids, be undeniable, and he is without a doubt been undeniable on the field. And so, he's kind of set himself up to be, maybe be a guy that is a 4-year type of player, which is hard to do. We're not playing very many freshmen right now, especially as many plays as he's getting. So it's been fantastic to see, and I know Coach Kim's very happy with him. You hear his name getting called out, and I think he's really taking this opportunity and ran with it. So very, very, very proud of Coop.
Yeah, he's done a terrific job. Nolan Ewing, by the way, had 11 tackles on Saturday, which no one should be surprised by that. Nolan Ewing just continues to just be this freak out there as a safety. And I know Cavante finished with 151 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Still one of the top guys when it comes to scoring. But I'm sure he's probably one of the first ones to be like, Coach, come on, man. Like, we just lost again. I'm sure he's probably just sitting here just going, well, I got to get better. I got to get back on the horse. I got to do this. So, I guess with that being said, you take a look at this week ahead of Bethel. A lot of work that needs to be put in this week, obviously. But as we were talking a little bit off the air, there's still plenty of season left. Mm-hmm. You guys still have 3 games left. You guys still have an opportunity. Do need some help when it comes to that. But there's still something to play for with just having 2 losses, being at 7-2, 9 weeks into the season. So I guess when you take a look at this week, you guys are finally back in Wichita. I'm sure they're happy to sleep in their beds. Now it's time to get back to work. I'm sure practice this week, there's going to be a lot of conversation, but also a lot of fired up players out there on the football field when it comes to practice.
Yeah, our kids have done, I am, outside of everything, the wins, a lot. I'm so proud of our players. They're fun to be around every day. You talk about a long road trip. We're in hotels. We're in multiple restaurants, and I'm serious. We had 7 different situations where either families in restaurants we were in, hotel staff, or restaurant staff come up and say, "This is the nicest group of kids we've ever had in here," and so that does mean a lot, and I think that speaks a lot to our kids as far as how they treat people. And so very easy to root for the guys, and certainly, we want to be a program that's way more about winning or losing. And so sometimes coaches only say that when you win because, it's easy to say it when everybody's happy. But even in a loss, our guys were, just awesome kids, great teammates, awesome sons, nephews, all those things. Everybody was there, man. I was very proud of them, and I'm still very proud to be the coach, be their coach. And so I'll tell you that. I will tell you our guys will absolutely respond really well. You mentioned Cavante. It's one of those things. There's a dynamite electric football player, but he's never too high. So even when he's doing those crazy runs, he's not out of control, way over the top high, and he's never been too low. And so it's one of the things that all, and I think our whole team feels that way right now. Even in the midst of a hard loss that was frustrating and embarrassing and whatever, all those emotions, man. Those kids, you can see it in their eyes that they're hungry for more, and they want to play in more of those games. And what I can tell you is every time you play in a game like that, when you have a group of young men like we have, they will learn from it, and they won't make the same mistakes again. And so, unfortunately, sometime when you're in a young program, we have only been here now. This is the second fall, so we haven't completed 2 seasons as a program. You got to learn some hard lessons. And honestly, if there was a shortcut around that, there'd be more teams that did it this fast. This is as fast a turnaround in the history of our conference. I mean, really, as far as getting into a national ranking in however many games, as fast. It's as fast as anyone's ever done it in our conference, okay? And so sometimes you can lose sight of how hard that is, and that's okay, so we want that. So it's okay to be disappointed, and also at the same time to be extremely proud. And I will tell you that for these young men, we will learn from it. We will address all issues like big tough Falcons, and we will benefit from it. And so I guess that's a long way to say you can see it in our kids' eyes after that game. You can see it in our parents' eyes. There was hurt and there was heartbreak, and how it is. It's like my kids. If my kid scrapes their knee, my heart's broken, right? But much less when we have kids like we do that care so much and they're hurting after a hard loss like that, when you don't feel like, man, we just didn't even give it our best shot. It's as hurtful a loss as I've ever been a part of, and we've lost some playoff games in the past and came short of a state championship one year at Heights, and I've never felt as hurt after a game that we did Saturday. But at the same time, when you look in our kids' eyes, they're not going to shut it down. We have a group of kids who are absolute studs right now, absolute warriors, and they're just going to get right back to work and learn from it and build on it. And so it's okay to hurt a little bit. It's just not okay to be soft about it. And our guys, they will embrace it for sure, and I know we'll get going.
Yeah.
So.
Well, as you brought up, as fast, of course, I cheat the system a little bit because I go back to being up in Salina for a moment, and it's hard not to remember Kansas Wesleyan going 2-9, and the following year they go 10-2, and they go over to Southern Oregon and get a nice little taste of like what postseason football is like. But then, of course, the next year it wasn't exactly all pretty. They still had to grind and work for it and stuff like that. So, and I said 7-2. I feel I'm losing track of my total 6-2.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I get that out there before anyone else goes, hold on a second, where are you getting the extra win? Well, the bye week's a win to me.
Yeah.
And Coach Harrison said it was a successful bye week, so we're just gonna credit that as a win to go to 7-2. Well, hopefully you do go to 7-2, but of course, in order to do that, you got to get a win this weekend up in North Newton against the Bethel Threshers. DJ Sears, one of the toughest quarterbacks you're going to see in this conference. A guy, if he gets outside the pocket and starts to scramble, you're going to be hurting if you don't have someone on there. I know they've been able to, come along on the defensive side. They always seem to be solid on that front. Obviously, you know a thing or two about Bethel College football, and obviously they're going to know a thing or two about Friends University football. So a lot of familiarity going up to North Newton this Saturday. Your thoughts on the matchup against the Threshers?
Just excited about it. They're a very, very good team. They've lost some games this year. They've had some injury stuff. You mentioned DJ Sears, who's been Coach Kelly recruited him out of Houston, and he played for us for a year, and he's done nothing but score touchdowns and win a bunch of football games as a quarterback in college. And so he definitely poses a challenge, and probably one of the most electric players in the conference. And so, man, you got to find a way to manage that. He just does a good job of making plays even when people game plan around him. So, that'll definitely be a challenge. Their offensive line's very good. I think all of them. But regardless, we know all those kids, and so they're very good. And receiver, probably the most turnover from when I was there. There's a receiving core. There's not a lot of guys left that were there when I was there. But the box kids we're all familiar with, and they're very, very talented, and they're doing a really good job as far as running the football and especially with making plays for DJ Sears. And so that'll be a challenge that we'll have to address and figure out a way to try to manage him a little bit, even though that can be hard as well. So we'll have to do a really good job defensively against him. And so I do like our matchup. I think our defense has just gotten better and better each week. And so, we pose some challenges too,
right.
defensively, especially coming after we just played a really good game against Evangel. So I think our guys will be ready for that defensively.
Yeah. Well, and Bethel coming off the win against Southwestern, so you know that they're feeling pretty good as well, getting that win against the Mound Builders, still a very formidable opponent.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how it goes up in North Newton. I'm sure you and A.B. Stokes will be talking it up a little bit beforehand, and I'm sure you'll probably take a look around and go, hey, look at this place. But I would imagine, though, Coach Stokes being up there and you being down here, getting a chance to talk with Coach Stokes, I know he's a funny character,
mm-hmm.
and one that I can certainly listen to. Apparently he's a movie writer on the side, so but that was, secret notes I got last time I talked to him. He goes, who you been talking to? I said, well, I got people that tell me stuff. And it wasn't Coach Terry Harrison, in case you're wondering. It wasn't Coach Harrison revealing that. So I guess we'll see what happens coming up on Saturday at 1 o'clock in North Newton. Coach, appreciate the time. Best of luck to you this weekend.
Thank you.
Terry Harrison, head football coach of the Friends Falcons, here on the Friends Football Show. Friends coming off its second loss of the season, dropping to 6-2 after a loss to number 13 Evangel on the road, 20-11. The Falcons will look to bounce back coming up on Saturday against Bethel College, 1 o'clock kick. Highly recommend making the short trek up to North Newton from Wichita to catch that game. Also recommend putting the last two games on your calendar for the regular season. November 4th against McPherson College, a 1 o'clock kick. That game will be at Riverfront Stadium. Home to the Wichita Wind Surge, and also home to ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM. So I won't have to go very far when it comes to covering that game. But Mac College having a good season. And then the final game of the season will be Saturday, November 11th against Bethany College at Adair Austin Stadium. So mark those dates on your calendar and attend those games coming up when Friends returns back to Wichita. We appreciate Walk-On Sports Bistreaux for being a big-time sponsor of Friends University Athletics. They have a ton of TVs out this way at Walk-On Sports Bistreaux. We love the food. We love the energy. Hope you can come out here and support Walk-On Sports Bistreaux. We're going to be out here every Monday at 5 o'clock, so if you want to come and join us, please feel free to do so. On behalf of Coach Terry Harrison, I'm Pat Strathman saying so long from Walk-Ons. We'll see you again with our next edition of the Friends University Football Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM.